Hey, welcome to episode 3 of Awakening.
Yeah, we're so excited you guys are back with us. We think that this awakening experience is really going great, and here we are already to episode 3. So without any further wait, let's just dive right in and get into some worship.
Well, hello, welcome to worship. We're going to sing a song called Waymaker today, and this is by Leland, who's kind of made it more famous, maybe on the radio. But we're going to sing this song, and I love this song. It just declares who God is. He's the Waymaker. He's a miracle worker and a promise keeper. And so no matter where you find yourself, maybe you've been struggling with this whole pandemic thing, or not being able to go to a student camp or an experience with friends physically, God is still there, and He is still moving in your life. Even when you don't see it, He is continuing to work in and through the people around you, into your circumstances. And so I hope that as we sing this song, you can really just think about that and pray about that as we worship today. So.
Touching every heart, I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're healing every heart, I worship you, I worship you. Ooh, you are here, you're turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. Ooh, you are here, you're mending every heart. And I worship you, yeah, I worship you, Lord. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. 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 And that is who you are.
Let's sing this out together. Sing, even when I don't see it, you're working.
Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing that is. Oh, that is who you are. And that is who you are. And that is who you are. And that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. 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 Amen. God, we thank you for who you are. God, that even when we don't see it or feel it, God, that you are working in and around us. God, let us realize that as we continue to lean in and experience you. God, we thank you for all that you do. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Hello, my name is Daniel Hughes, and I'm a pastor here on the west side of Cincinnati at Incline Missional Community. And I'm happy to share a few thoughts with you regarding your theme, awakening. You know, that word awakening means to rouse someone or to cease from sleep. I have a 15-year-old son who loves to play Fortnite, and he loves to stay up late and sleep in as late as he can. And so we have to go in there and we have to shake him sometimes and flip the light on and off just to wake him up. And when he wakes up, he's usually out of it. He's all groggy, his eyes open up wide, and he's got this crazy look on his face. And he'll say something like, "Why?" And we'll have to tell him, "You have to get your, the trash out. You got a chore to do. You need to read. You got to be productive. You've been sleeping too long." And the point of waking up is that there's only so much time that you have to be productive. In the scriptures, they talk about we have to work while it is day, because at night no one can work. Jesus says those words actually in John chapter 9. And in John chapter 9, he's walking with his disciples, and they come across a man who was blind from birth. And so they asked Jesus about this man who was blind. And they said, "Who sinned, Rabbi? This man or his parents?" And Jesus says to them, he's not blind because his parents sinned or because he sinned. He said this happened, his blindness happened so that the power of God could be seen in him. And Jesus then says, we must quickly carry out the tasks assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. And he then went on to say, but while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. I want to use that as a backdrop. I want to use that as a foundation for what I want to say today. And that is that we only have so much time to do the job that God put us on the planet to do. And I've seen many, many examples of people who have looked at a situation or looked at a person and thought that because it was something that seemed like a negative or it seemed uncomfortable, that God wasn't in it and that God was punishing someone and that they needed to pay. Kind of like the disciples. Well, because they believed that if someone was lame or they were a leper or if there was some sort of physical or emotional or mental sickness, that someone had sinned, and so that they were being punished by God because of the sin. But Jesus lets them know very clearly, this isn't about someone sinning. This is so that you can see the power of God, the very hand of God. And that's what I want to kind of push us into that direction, is that perhaps the moment that we're living in right now is not so much that God is upset with us or that we've done so much wrong. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can do that's in our control that we should do for our planet and for each other. But perhaps that the difficult time that we're in, that you may be in, COVID, not being able to finish school physically, a lot of stuff is happening online. The social unrest, the racial injustice, police brutality, all of these things that make us really, really uncomfortable, and we may have a lot of opinions about those things. Perhaps those things are happening, and we're experiencing and paying attention to those things now because God's power is about to be revealed. Now, I don't think that God is back there behind the scenes doing a bunch of stuff so that God can show his power. I believe it's in the children of God standing in the faith and in the place and in the purpose that God has created them for, to show the love of God, to bring about the justice of God. You know, Micah 6:8 says that what does the Lord require of us? And that is to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. And I believe that if we were to apply those three things, those three requirements to the situations that we're living in right now, that we would begin to see the very power of God. And it would seem something like what this man experienced when he encountered Jesus. So Jesus looks at the man, he spits on the ground, he makes some mud with his saliva, and he puts it over the man's eyes. And he tells him to go to the pool and wash. And the man went and washed and came back seeing. I'm looking for a time, I'm looking for a moment for us to do something as crazy sounding as that, spitting in the ground, making mud, putting it on someone's eyes, and they're miraculously healed. I believe that we're living in a time where we need some unprecedented, maybe even radical solutions or practices of love that begin to reveal the power of God. And I say that to you because I think that God has created things by design with intention. I know in Jeremiah 1, chapter 5, when God called Jeremiah to do a work, Jeremiah was doing life as he saw fit, and God called him to into the service of a prophet. And this is the message that God said to him. He says, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. Right? Jeremiah, before he ever realized that he had a purpose, God intentionally had a purpose and a place for him. The writer of Ephesians writes in Ephesians 1 that long before God laid the earth's foundations, he had us in mind, the church, children of God. And he had settled on us as the focus of his love. Before he laid the foundations of the earth, he had us in mind, and he settled on us as the focus of his love, that we are the focus of God's love. And he decided that we would be made whole and holy only by God's love. Only by God's love. So before all of this stuff, before COVID, before the social unrest, before the quarantine, before 2020, and all the things that we've experienced, that God already had intentions, that God already had purpose, that God already had a place for you and me. And that's sometimes hard to believe, especially when we're going through difficult times. But I want to take you back to the beginning of the Bible in Genesis to see, hopefully to see this point a little clearer. When God was creating in Genesis 1, I guess 26, God looked at all that God created. He had animals and plant life and all these things. And the very last thing that God created was humankind, humanity. And God said that God wanted to create humankind in God's likeness and in God's image as a spiritual being, as a loving being. And so God created human beings in God's image and in God's likeness. And gave us rulership or dominion or authority over the way that we treat one another and the way that we treat the planet. It is your birthright. It is your birthright to carry your authority and your power into every relationship and into every place you go. That God created you, not because you're someone's son or someone's daughter, not because you're white or because you're black or because you're brown or tan, not because you're a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, but because you were created. The moment you came into the planet, you had God's birthright already in you to do the very things that God has created for you to do. It is in you. It's in your DNA. It's in your spirit. It's in your mind. And our job is to be able to see one another, not as blind men and women, not as sick men and women, not as disturbed men and women, but as children of God who are worthy of living out their birthright and sharing the love of God so that you and I can be made holy by God's love. God's love is being revealed in and through us in our relationships. So God creates Adam, and God places him in the garden, and God gives him a purpose, and that was to cultivate and keep the garden, till it. God gave him a wife who he now has companionship. He's not isolated or alone. God gave him a desire, and that desire was twisted when he encountered the evil one who said, "You can be like God." And that became Adam and Eve's desire, was to be like God, knowing good and evil. But they already had the relationship with God. They were already like God and did not see that they already had God's likeness and image already in them. And so they chose an alternative path. And so they got off the path of love, but then God revealed God's love to them in that God did not destroy them. God said, "I'm going to give you a second chance, but I've got to move you out of the place that I designed for you. And you'll have to wander about the earth. You'll have to run into each other. You'll have wars and you'll have clashes and you'll have ups and you'll have downs. And that's not the way that God intended it, but that's the way it is. And you and I must awaken to the fact. We must be reminded of the fact that we have been created in the image and likeness of God. That is our birthright. Each one of us has a place where we belong. Each one of us has been given a purpose to fulfill. Each one of us has been given a tribe or a people to belong to. Each one of us has a passion, a fire, a drive. And all of that is to share and show the love of God to every person we meet so that they can wake up to their greatness too, so that they can wake up to their kingdom identity too. So I want to encourage you to awaken from your sleep and see who you really are and pursue the purpose that God has for your life. We need you to do this. God bless you, and may God keep you.
Hey, thank you, Daniel, for those words and that call for us to understand and awake to the fact that our identity isn't in our race. It isn't in what people see or think about us, but it's in how God has created us. Powerful message. I don't care how old or where you are in life. It's a great reminder that we are truly the children of God.
Amen. It was great to hear those words, and we appreciate the message that you brought to us, Daniel. We're excited you guys are with us for episode 3, and we look forward to seeing you back here for episode 4. Don't forget to check out that guide to give you some questions for reflection as we're on this journey together. See you next time.